As a dog owner and as someone who in the past hasn't taken good care of a pet, I completely resonate with this feeling of feeling like you failed your pet and how it's all your responsibility. Now, of course, when employed with this perspective, it incurs a lot of suffering. But in terms of being responsible for another life, that guilt is kind of like a tag that always follows you. Let's talk a little bit about why that's the case. When you become responsible for another life, you, for the first time, you kind of experience an infinite amount of love that you want to provide to this other life. If it's your child, if it's your pet, no matter what it is, as soon as you become responsible for another life, you understand that feeling of wanting to give the world and beyond to this life. So that is your intent. That is your desire to supply an infinite amount of love. However, because we are human beings, because we live in a world that has 24 hours and 365 days in a year and such, because of the byproduct of living a life, there is only a finite amount of actual things you can do for this life. Because of that, there's always a discrepancy between the infinite amount of love that you want to and feel like you should provide versus the reality, which is limited and finite. That's the perspective difference, right? So, what is infinite minus finite? It's still infinite, right? So, you always have this guilt when you take care of another life. And that's sort of kind of the, again, it's a cost of loving something so purely. So, what I'm trying to say first is even if your dog had a very long life of 20 plus years and died peacefully in the sleep, nothing will prevent your brain from saying, this is my fault. If I did a better job, then the dog could have lived longer. So now that indicates that that thought will just rise without actual justification. There is no way of actually knowing your dog's destined lifespan. The life that your dog lived is the life that your dog lived. There are no hypotheticals because there is no point. But if we are considering hypotheticals, it's very important to recognize that this perception that you have about your dog and how you ruined the dog's life and failed the dog to death is a very, very black or white kind of a reasoning that's so attractive to the brain because of the guilt. What are some other possibilities? Well, what if it hadn't for been you, if it hadn't been you taking care of your dog for clearly a very long and fastidious amount of like you put a lot of effort in taking care of your dog for a prolonged amount of time. What if you didn't do that, the dog would have died much earlier. And what if because of this your dog was able to have a prolonged amount of life and time on this earth? What if it wasn't for you, if you weren't the, caretaker for this dog, what if your dog went to a abusive person? What if your dog, you never knew about it, but had a genetic condition? What if you take excellent care of your dog by putting everything aside, but then the dog just gets attacked by another neighborhood dog or a coyote and passes? You just never know the infinite amount of possibilities that can happen. What if something happens to you, knock on wood? There's all these possibilities in life. Some you may consider good, some you may consider bad. That is reality. That is true reality if you look at the infinite possibilities. So you're cherry picking the perspective that fits the guilt the most. Because, again, the guilt is something that just naturally arises because of the discrepancy between the amount of love that you want to provide but actually can provide. Moreover, this is all hindsight, right? You don't actually, like, at the time you were living in 2020, 2021, 2022, you didn't know, you had no idea things would unfold this way. So, you can, I mean, you are doing it right now, but if you blame yourself for things that you didn't know, you have to understand it serves no real purpose but just to make you suffer. But the thing is, in this situation, it's so attractive to want to suffer because it feels like you're punishing yourself. And when you punish yourself, it feels like you're absolving yourself of this sin, this mortal sin that you have committed against this really innocent life. But you have to understand, reality is just what happened. What happened is, to the best of your ability, you took care of your dog. And because of that, your dog lived until 16 years old. And throughout the time, you were there by its side. You didn't abandon it. You were always trying your best to take care of this dog. That is the only thing that happened. Your dog wasn't destined to an infinite amount of life. Your dog and you and every living person will die because that is just the price tag that comes with life. So you did your best, and what was supposed to happen happened in one form. But again, everything is up to perspective and interpretation. So I want to give you a new, different perspective that can potentially give you solace. In the Heart Sutra, which is a Buddhist sutra, there is a phrase that goes like, there is no life and there is no death. What does that mean? The Heart Sutra says, all things are empty. Nothing is born, nothing dies. Nothing is pure, nothing is stained, nothing increases, and nothing decreases. What this means is things are empty. So, this means life seems like it's life, but only from a perspective. So, when you look at fireworks, it looks like it's alive. When you look at an aura, it seems like it has an emotion of its own. When you look at the clouds, it feels like it's living, right? But that's now you can declare that life because you give it the perspective of life. And in death too. We see a lot of people who live but they're practically zombies, right? We see a lot of things that are alive, but they just seem so dead. Life and death inherently have no qualities. Hitler's death, pretty cool, but other people, innocent person's death, your dog's death, it's sad. But it's the same kind of death. Your dog's life is celebrated. Hitler's life, boo. So it's the same life. It's the same concept of life. When this says empty, it just means that everything, every quality is up to a perspective. And so I want to provide you the perspective that your dog and you While in this small narrow lens, it seems like you had a life and death. But in the grand scheme of things, your dog came from nothing and became a biomatter from the dog's parents, and then the biomatter fused, and then now in your dog's passing, it goes back into the biomatter, ultimately decomposed, and back into nature. Same thing will happen with you. And I'm sure you've had a lot of contact with your dog. All the experiences, all the physical touches, and all the physical experiences that you had with your dog is integrated within you. So your dog lives within you. The physical body may be gone, but you always have an eternal image of your dog that lives with you. And moreover, when you cohabitate with your dog, chances are you share, there's a chance that your dog sneezed and then you ingested it, and so, or like you got the hair in or whatever, or your dog gave you a big kiss, big lick. In that way, your dog is part of you already in your body. And just like how you came from biomatter, you also will join your dog in biomatter. And who knows? Maybe this has happened before. So, in your past reformations of these biomatters, you had such a great, wonderful, loving relationship, and your dog wanted to be with you again, and that's why you merged again. And who knows, it may happen into the future, because that's all we are, right? Just biomatter fusing, and then coincidentally, and then dissipating again, forming, dissipating again, like a wave. And talked a lot about this because this is a topic that's very close to my heart. But may your dog rest in peace, and I hope you consider these perspective and find yourself peace, because what would your dog want the most? The owner to be happy.